Hello friends, today we will discuss Mendels Laws of Inheritance. So far we have discussed monohybrid cross, dihybrid cross, and today we will discuss Mendels Laws of Inheritance. Mendels Laws of Inheritance. Right? अगर आपको मैं बता दूं, मेंडल ने बेसिकली कोई लॉ नहीं दिया. एक्चुअली आफ्टर ब्रीडिंग एंड क्रॉसिंग मोर देन 5,000 पी प्लांट्स, अपने गार्डन में मेंडल ने 5,000 से ज्यादा पी प्लांट्स को क्रॉस किया, क्रॉस ब्रीडिंग एक्सपेरिमेंट्स किया, टेस्ट किया, and then he was able to come up with certain postulates, with certain crucial generalizations, and postulates. When जब उसने अपने गार्डन में 5,000 से ज्यादा प्लांट्स को क्रॉस एक्सपेरिमेंट्स किए, ब्रीडिंग एक्सपेरिमेंट्स किए, फिर उन एक्सपेरिमेंट्स के रिजल्ट को टेस्ट किया, एंड आफ्टर दैट ही केम अप विद सर्टेन जनरलाइजेशंस, विद सर्टेन postulates. Usually a scientist tries to make a postulate after thorough research. इसी तरह से मेंडल ने एक थारो रिसर्च करने के बाद कुछ जनरलाइजेशंस दी थी, कुछ postulates दी थी. He never published any law. He was not in a position to publish any law. He died in 1884. And then after 16 years of his death, in 1900, scientists like Hugo de Varies, right? He was from Holland, and Karl Corrinus, he was from Germany. They rediscovered Mendel's work. How they rediscovered Mendel's work? They performed cross-breeding experiments in large number of plants in order to find out, in order to test, in order to put the generalizations and postulates of Mendel to test. उन्होंने भी फिर क्रॉस ब्रीडिंग एक्सपेरिमेंट्स किए बहुत सारे प्लांट्स पे. जैसे अगर मैं आपको बता दूं, ह्यूगो डेवेरीज ने क्रॉस ब्रीडिंग एक्सपेरिमेंट्स किए इवनिंग प्राइम रोज पे. कार्ल कोरिन्स ने क्रॉस ब्रीडिंग एक्सपेरिमेंट्स किए मिल्स पे, राइट? एंड दीज साइंटिस्ट्स दे फेल्ट दैट, उन्होंने महसूस किया that these postulates and crucial generalizations made by Mendel need to be raised to the status of laws, need to be raised to the status of principles. Hence, the word like Mendel's Laws of Inheritance came into existence. Otherwise, Mendel himself has not published any law. He has just made certain generalizations, certain postulates. It were the scientists like Hugo de Varies and Karl Corrinus, the main one was Karl Corrinus, who felt that these generalizations and postulates of Mendel need to be raised to the status of law, need to be raised to the status of postulate, right? Principle. And then these were called as Mendel's Laws of Inheritance. Mendel's Laws of Inheritance. Mendel's principles of heredity. Mendels Laws of Heredity. The study of Mendels Laws of Heredity is called as Mendelism. Mendelism. Right? This was actually the case. And what laws were then framed by these workers and scientists? There were 4 types of laws. Number 1, law of unit factors. This was one law. Right? Number 2, law of dominance. Right? This was another law. Right? Number 3, law of segregation. Law of segregation. This was another law. Right? Number 4, law of independent assortment. Law of independent assortment. Assortment. These were 4 laws, which were later named as Mendels Laws of Inheritance, Mendels Principles of Heredity, Mendels, laws of heredity, law of unit factors, law of dominance, law of segregation, law of independent assortment. Out of these 4 laws, these 3 laws, law of unit factors, law of dominance, law of segregation, these were the conclusions of monohybrid cross. These were the conclusions of monohybrid cross, which we have discussed in our previous video lecture, right? And this 4th one, last one, law of independent assortment, this was the conclusion of dihybrid cross. Dihybrid cross also you have discussed in previous video lecture. Okay, these were the 4 laws, right? Law of unit factors, law of dominance, law of segregation. These 3 laws were the conclusions of monohybrid cross, whereas the 4th one, law of independent assortment, this was the conclusion of dihybrid cross. Okay, now let's come to the first one, law of unit factors. Law of unit factors. Okay, let's come to the first one, law of unit factors. Right? This law is also called as law of paired factors. This law has another name also. This is known as law of unit characters. Okay? These are different names of this law. Law of unit factors. This is also known as law of paired factors, right? This is also known as law of unit characters, right? Now let's go for the statement of this, law. Law of unit factors. This law states that various heredity characters, right, are controlled by factors. Right? In other words, I may say that this law states that various hereditary characters are controlled by factors, because the name gene was not familiar to Mendel. He used it to call genes as factors. And if I will be more accurate, I will say that Mendel used it to call these factors as elementi. वो कह रहा था gametes bring, suppose this is a tall plant, okay, and this is dwarf plant, right? The gametes will be T and T, right? He was saying that gametes bring something, right, into the offspring, right? This something then this was factor. He called it elementary. And then factor. Ultimately, this is known as gene. Okay? Now, this law states that various hereditary characters are controlled by factors. Suppose hereditary character in P is the height. Right? This height character is controlled by a gene. By a gene. Presently we are calling gene, but he called factor. This law states that various hereditary characters are controlled by factors. I may say, this law states that various hereditary characters are controlled by genes. Suppose this is a height, right? It's controlled by a gene. This is color. It's controlled by a gene. This is shape of a seed. This is controlled by a gene, right? And he also added that there is a peer for each character. There is a peer for each character. There is a peer of factors. There is a peer of factors for each character. He said that each character is controlled by factors, but that factor occurs in a pair. That means if this is a height, right? It is controlled by a factor. Let me tell gene. This factor occurs in a pair. Suppose height character, it has factors such as, tall and dwarf. Right? There is a pair of factors for each character. There is a pair for factors. There is a pair of factors for each character. Okay? Now, this law states that various hereditary characters are controlled by factors. There is a pair of factor for each character. उसकी example आपको मैंने बता दिया. Height, you have a pair of factors, right? Tall and dwarf. There is a factor responsible for tallness and there is a factor for responsible for dwarfness. These two factors occur as a unit. They occur in pair. They are pair. Is the reason why this law is also called as law of pair factors. Right? Now, let's come to an individual receives. An individual. अगर हम एक individual की बात करेंगे, receives. What it receives? One factor, right, of a trait, one factor of a trait, suppose tallness or dwarfness, from each parent, and therefore has two factors from both parents, right? From both parents. An individual receives one factor of trait from each parent and therefore has two factors from both the parents, from two parents, has two factors from both the parents. Suppose, let me tell you, like this. This is tall plant, right? Right? It has a trait tallness of a character height, right? It has two pairs. One, it has received from parent and other, it has received from another parent. Same is the case with dwarf. This is dwarf parent, right? It has two factors, a pair of factors, right? One it has taken from, parent and other it has taken from other parent. Now, and this individual passes on one factor, only one factor, right? Out of the two, this one. And out of the two, this one. One factor to the offspring. One factor to the offspring at random. Suppose we have this tall plant. This is law of unit factors. Law of unit factor states that various hereditary characters are controlled by factors. There is a pair of factor for each character. An individual receives one factor for a trait from each parent. Therefore, he has two factors for a trait, right? From both the parents. And then this individual passes on only one factor out of the two to the offspring, right? At random, right? This is law of unit factors. I hope that you would have understood. Now let's come to the next one. Then comes the next one. Some scientists are of the opinion that this law of unit factors is considered as first law of Mendels inheritance. Okay, some. Let's come to the next one. Now comes the next one. That is law of dominance. Law of dominance. Law of dominance. Right? Law of dominance states, let me write down the statement. Law of dominance states that two alleles of a pair, let me write this, when two alleles of a pair of an inherited pair of alleles, let me write down this. Factors were later on called as genes. Genes were having alternative forms. That means alleles. Law of dominance states that when two alleles of an inherited pair when two alleles of an inherited pair जो inherit की गई हो is heterozygous, when they are heterozygous, then the allele which expresses itself in F1 hybrid is called as dominant allele, and the allele which is not able to express itself is called as recessive allele. This is known as law of dominance. I will tell you again. Law of dominance states that when two alleles of an inherited pair is heterozygous, this pair is heterozygous, then the allele which expresses itself in F1 hybrid is called as dominant allele, while as the allele which is unable to express itself is known as recessive allele. You can just understand it by an example. I am telling you, this is homozygous tall. This is tall plant, okay? When we cross it with a dwarf plant, okay, this is dwarf plant, right? This tall plant has the genotype TT, okay? And this dwarf plant has the genotype small t, right? When F1 individual is formed, F1 hybrid is formed, it has this combination, capital T, small t. When two alleles, let me talk of this, when two alleles inherited from the parents, right, are different. When two alleles inherited from parents are heterozygous, then the allele which expresses itself, यहाँ पे ये टॉल है, हाइब्रिड टॉल है ना, हाइब्रिड टॉल ये था, This was pure tall, right? Then the allele which expresses itself, that's known as dominant allele. Yeah, this is dominant allele, right? This is dominant allele. And the allele which is unable to express itself is known as recessive allele. Isn't it called as recessive allele? This indicates that in F1 hybrid, I mean hybrid tall, this was F1 hybrid, heterozygous organism, this one heterozygous. This heterozygous individual or this F1 hybrid was also having the allele responsible for dwarfness. Here you are saying. But this allele was not able to express itself in F1 generation. Hence, this was known as recessive allele. While as this F1 hybrid, when we analyze the genotype of this F1 hybrid, it was also having the allele responsible for tallness. This allele was able to express itself in this F1 hybrid. So, this is known as dominant allele and this is known as recessive allele. This is law of dominance. Again, I will tell you, law of dominance states that when two alleles in an inherited pair of alleles, when two alleles in an inherited pair of alleles, this is an inherited pair of alleles, is heterozygous, then the allele which expresses itself, that was tall here in F1 hybrid, right, is called as dominant allele, and the allele which was unable to express itself, this is this one, this is called as recessive allele. This indicates that the allele responsible for dwarfness was also present in F1 hybrid, but in F1 generation, but in F1 hybrid, this allele responsible for dwarfness was not able to express. This is one remain dominant and other remain recessive. This dominant allele suppressed, masked the effect of this recessive allele. This is law of dominance. Okay? And in our next video lecture, we will discuss law of segregation and law of independent assortment. Thank you. Till then, bye.